Welcome to the NDIS Property Australia podcast. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hi, everyone. Today, we're with Phil from LifeBright. LifeBright is an organisation down the coast at Robina, who they offer MTAs and STA accommodation for NDIS participants. Could you just introduce yourself, Phil, and just tell us just a little bit more about yourself and your organisation?
Sure, Matt. LifeBright is part of our group, and it's a subsidiary of the Odyssey Health Group, which is our primary business. And really that's based around accommodation for different categories of people and providing care for them. In LifeBright, it's for our people in the community that have got disabilities, obviously. And LifeBright is registered to supply accommodation for SDA to high physical support. And we also have on site our own 24/7 care team. So we always welcome our residents to come and live with us with their own care team should they want to. And we often fill in the gaps where that care team is not able to handle something, for example, an overnight stay or whatever. So we're quite we're a strong service-based supplier of accommodation that also fills in the gaps with care as people need it.
Awesome. No worries. So how long have you guys been around for?
Well, I've been doing this now for 20 years, but with the specialist disability accommodation, I've been doing that since 2005, well before the NDIS was invented, where I would have elderly couples that would live with us who would have a disabled child, and they would talk to me and say, look, is there any chance that our son or daughter can live with us? And I can assure you that when you're sitting across the table from a family, it's really hard to split them up. So we learned how to deal with and handle accommodation for younger people with disabilities ages ago. So we've been practicing that since 2005. But Odyssey and LifeBright itself is an iteration of or the culmination of all of those years. And we've been open here at Robina since July 2020.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, because I actually went down, it was probably a month or two ago to visit the location at Robina.
Yep.
And I was just amazed at just the extent of the service provided. Obviously, it's all modern facilities, but there's just a plethora of just, I suppose, opportunities to, firstly, obviously, facilitating a lifestyle to suit the participants' needs, but there's also kind of ways in which they can kind of get involved with each other and get involved in the community. And I just found that to be incredible when I went down there.
Yeah, look, I appreciate you saying that because it's just the way we do it. So I've always taken that for granted. But to pause on it for a moment, there are some unique things about us. So as you say, like our residents, we have 18 apartments for our residents with disabilities, and there is a dedicated reception to that area. There is, dedicated security. There's a like-mindedness amongst all the residents, and they are involved and invited to participate in the whole community. So our LifeBright community is sort of like a hood within the neighbourhood. And, for example, we have a lifestyle program where there's stuff going on all the time, and our residents in LifeBright are more than welcome to attend that. So there are activities happening all day, all week, all year. And I might have mentioned to you when you were down on one of the team that, most people say sort of like living on a stationary cruise ship, there's always something to do. And like on a cruise ship, there's a full care team. So if I need it or if something comes up that's an emergency, you've got me covered. So I think what we are what you would call a two-horned unicorn.
Yeah. So I guess for someone, because a lot of obviously STA and MTA are kind of the cousin of SDA, which is, what a lot of people who we work with are kind of in the SDA market. Could you just, and they might not know, situations where, a participant might be waiting to move into an SDA home, and where are they at that stage? Because obviously, your organisation, they can stay up to 90 days. 90 days, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And we are finding that that fulfills a need out there, because there are lots of people that need short-term accommodation, a couple of weeks because they're stuck or they need a break. But in particular, MTA, medium term accommodation, there's lots of people that are waiting for their final home to be completed. And they go, well, what do I do? Well, you come and live with us for 3 months, and we can sort of sort out all your stuff. You can live with us. You've got a beautiful place to live. We can handle your care if your care team can't get here or aren't available until you move into your permanent accommodation. So we're finding there's quite a need out there for MTA and SDA, and we're quite happy to fill that niche.
Yep, excellent. Yeah. So just so the listeners who might not know, what's STA and MTA? Could you just give us just a brief description of kind of the differences there and what they mean?
Sure. Well, my version of STA, it's short-term accommodation. It's where people might need respite, they might need a break, and they go, look, my plan covers me to be able to stay somewhere for a couple of weeks, and then and it's all charged out at the scheduled rate, and they come and stay with us for a short-term break. We call it kind of staycation. MTA is medium-term accommodation. So as I was saying before, somebody has got their new place being built and they're going to move into it, say, in 3 months' time. Their arrangements where they are now have changed, and they need somewhere for 90 days as sort of like a bridging accommodation, a bridging care availability or package to see them through that period of time where they are moving from one environment to another. So commonly, it's a problem for people, and we've learnt, and we've got 3 apartments that we sort of keep for that, and one that we keep for short-term accommodation to sort of fill that niche. So we cover people that need a short-term fix or a medium-term fix, and people, obviously do want to live here permanently as well. But this industry, needs to work together. So we don't try and say to somebody, look, if you're here for medium-term accommodation, then it's medium-term. We understand that, and we'll try and work around when your new home is ready to be able to accommodate you to move across when that is required. So if you get to 60 days and your new place is done, good-o, no problem, and away you go. Because one of the problems, Matt, that people have is that if they find medium-term accommodation, they might find something that's really not nice and they don't want it. And they might go, well, look, how about I have my medium-term accommodation down on the Gold Coast, and I'm going to live in Brisbane permanently at some point. But, geez, it'd be nice to be down there. But then they go,
absolutely.
Then they go, well, how does my care team get down there? Well, if it's medium-term accommodation, we can look after the care because we have 24/7 care on site, and everybody can have a little bit of a break. So when they move into their new place in Brisbane, their care team have had a little bit of a break as well, and then they can come back and still look after them. So we aim to sort of fit in with everybody, and so far so good.
Yeah, excellent. So I suppose going on that point, it does sound as if it's very dynamic in the ways in which it can be adaptive to to kind of integrate a participant's current position and and what they might need in the short term as they're transitioning between locations or different funding options, etc. So in terms of the place at Robina, could you just kind of break down what sort of facilities there are there? I went to see it the other day, which was excellent. But yeah, could you just kind of run us through what's available for participants, what they can get involved in, that sort of thing?
Sure. Okay. Well, in the built form itself, like I said, it's like a neighbourhood within the neighbourhood. The apartments are designed to handle people up to high physical support. We have a couple of apartments that have hoists built in already to be able to assist people to get from their bed across into the bathroom, for example. The apartments themselves are extremely modern. They range in size from about 75 square metres to about 90 square metres. They're all two-bedroom, albeit that usually for short-term accommodation or medium-term accommodation, usually just one person. But it does give you a place that you can stick all your gear. You can put your your wheelchair or whatever the case might be. Or if you've got a family member or a mate that's going to come and stay for the weekend, there's a place where they've got a bed that doesn't interfere with you. So the finishes are really nice, as you would have seen.
Absolutely, yeah. So when I was blown away by it, honestly, because it was not only that it was functional and accessible in the ways in which kind of a specialist disability accommodation kind of needs to be. It presented so well, and the ways in which it kind of was ergonomic. I don't know if that's the right word, but it kind of fit in well with the surrounds, and I love that personally. I thought that was great. Yeah.
Well, when we were doing the designs, actually, we inquired to find out who was the toughest certifier for SDA accommodation, and that's a fellow by the name of Francis Lenny. You probably know Francis. And Francis is, he has cerebral palsy, and he's very aware of what is required. And I can assure you that Francis measured everything. So if the gaps of the widths of the hallway was a millimetre too short or too narrow, he would not certify it. So he went over everything with a fine-tooth comb. So we are really absolutely 100% certain that it's as good as it can be, unless something else comes up that has not been looked at or seen. So currently, it was really well scrutinised to deliver what it is. So in addition to that, each apartment has a balcony. We have some external areas. Barbecue area with sun hood over the top. But in our community, we have a restaurant. So there's breakfast, morning tea, 3-course lunch, if you want it. And dinner, and we do home delivery. So, somebody just jumps on their phone, rings through to the kitchen like you do in a hotel, and somebody will deliver dinner in a brown paper bag. On site, we have the 24/7 care team, and that's been a real plus for most people, including a registered nurse, because, what normally happens, Matt, if somebody has an episode, an issue, usually a carer will go, off to hospital you go, and nobody likes that. Neither does the hospital.
No way, yeah.
People don't want to do that if it's something it needs an RN, a registered nurse, but you don't have to go to hospital. So we can prevent all of that because our registered nurses deal with that issue, and it's very rare that we see an ambulance come on site. So we have that. We have lifestyle coordinators across the whole community, which we build an annual, monthly, weekly calendar of all sorts of stuff that people are welcome to participate in. Some of it's free if it's in-house. If it's an excursion or something like that, people just pay for the cost of the excursion. We don't charge a margin on any of that. So it's not just the built form. It's a community. There's stuff going on all the time that people can participate in or not. If you're a bookworm, you don't have to do anything. But if you do want to get involved and make new friends and do stuff, if your life has been somewhat sedentary or isolated, we provide that environment.
It's a perfect community for that. Yep. Yeah, awesome. No worries. Yeah. And I also noticed, there was so many different kind of rooms and facilities there in terms of entertainment and just both getting involved, but then also being able to do your own thing.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, also the opportunity for someone to, stay there who's maybe a relative or a friend.
Yep.
And another point I wanted to touch on, which you mentioned earlier, was just how the person who certified it had cerebral palsy.
Yes.
And how it's so important, particularly in these sort of facilities, to make sure. I was speaking to someone else about this the other day, that it comes from a place of experience and understanding the actual needs of participants, because there can be, in terms of builders and participants, support coordinators, providers, there can be a discrepancy between information and the needs, between the needs between participants and what builders think that they need. And so it's so important to get that, I suppose, be on the same page when it comes to those sort of needs. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, it's very valid. We have a lot of experience anyway with actually dealing with people with disabilities, not so much experience with dealing with the NDIS and the NDIA, because as I said, our position where we looked after people with and do look after people with disabilities has come from need. It hasn't really come from, look, here's an opportunity. It hasn't come from that position. It's come from, okay, we've got people that have got disabled kids who are living with us. We better work it out. It came from that. So what that means is that you talk to a lot of individuals and then you go, all right, well, what do you learn from the last 15 years? And you learn that, people with disabilities are just the same as people without disabilities in terms of their desire for independence and for, all the things surrounding, the term dignity that are required and so on. So the only way you can get that right is to go, all right, well, let's find the right people to be sure that we're barking up the right tree. So when you find a guy like Francis, and he goes, okay, you've considered 95% of things, but here's the 5% of things you haven't considered. And if you listen to that, it's
that's so valuable.
It is, and it's not inexpensive, believe me, but it's just dumb to not do the job properly. And there's other things too, like Brent Woolgar. We utilise Brent from DSC, and we've gone to Brent. Okay, fine with the built form, we get that, but should we build a separate reception for our people with disabilities in our community to give them a sense of self and a sense of, this is my cohort, this is my place, I have my own security system, my own parking, all that sort of stuff. Should we do that within the community? And his response was, well, of course, because just like you have in every community, there are different facets to it, and each one needs to be respected equally. So that's why we don't have a common reception, for example. We have separate receptions because you need to respect the fact that that part of the community wants to have its own identity. And it's working really well because, the camaraderie and the social sharing that we're getting in LifeBright is really good. It's great to see, so it's working well. And as you were saying before, our general neighbourhood, we've got a library, we've got the restaurant, we've got a coffee shop, we've got all that sort of stuff. And sure, everybody shares that, but it's still nice to go home to your place that's designed for you the way that it should be.
Absolutely. So what sorts of participants are mostly there at the moment or have been in the past, just to give our listeners kind of an idea?
Look, mostly participants that are high physical support. And the reason for that is like I was saying, we're already a unicorn because we satisfy, I think, mostly everything, and we tick all the boxes. So people with high physical support requirements, it's really hard for them to find a medium-term accommodation location because you can't tick all the boxes. Not many people can. Most people either supply the SIL, the Supported Independent Living Care, or the accommodation, the SDA. Well, we do both. So it's easier for people that don't have relatively high care needs to find alternatives. Really hard for people that have got high care needs to find a place that works for them. So that's who we're attracting because it's the hardest part of the market, and we're one of the few people, if not the only one, that can cater for the needs.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, excellent. So I suppose moving forward, what are the goals of LifeBright moving into the future?
Well, look, at our campus in Robina, we've got 3 buildings at the minute. We've got Malibu, we've got Ipanema, and we've got Waikiki, and we have 18 STA apartments in Ipanema, as I said, in its own neighbourhood. We're going to be embarking on our next building will be Biarritz, and that's going to have a medical centre in it, a physio business because the physios are here now 5 days a week anyway. We're putting a pretty large gym in there because the residents and the staff use it, and the little gym we got now is not big enough. and everybody kind of gets on pretty well. So we're going to have it like a community gym, not just one for the residents or one for the staff. And then we're putting another level above the medical centre because it makes sense, again, for our specialist disability accommodation. So there'll be another 10 apartments there. And then there'll be some more of our regular Odyssey apartments for retirees and older people above that. So that's happening there. We also have a nice site on Chevron Island that we're finalising the actual plans on, and we'll have more accommodation there. And we are looking at another site, Bayside, up in Brisbane. So our plan is to just keep on doing what we're doing, really. And those communities will be minimum standard of what we're doing here, if not better, because as time goes by, there's new stuff. And whenever there's new stuff, we're always going to try it.
Yep, absolutely. So I suppose how can, because our goal of this particular podcast is to raise awareness of kind of SDA and MTA and what LifeBright's doing.
Yeah.
How can we support your organisation in terms of?
Look, as I said, we've come at it from the point of view of the need, not so much from how to milk the system. And I don't mean that in a negative way. We're sort of a little bit not as understanding on how to reach people to let them know that we are here. We've just done it because we need to, and we're sort of bobbling along a little bit. So where we need help is for people to spread the word that there is this place in Robina that's kind of unique. And if you have a short-term or a medium-term need in particular, give them a call, go on their website, have a look, and it's probably going to answer all the things that you need ticked that you haven't been able to find. So the help we could do with is just people knowing that we're here and talking about it.
No worries. Well, I suppose if there was someone out there who has funding, how would they or their carer or whatnot, would they just get into contact with you? What would be the best details to get in contact with you?
Yeah, look, if you just gave us a call, which you can get the number on the website, or you can email me direct, which is Phil, PHIL, at ohg.net.au, and then I'll connect you to our team. And it's a fairly comprehensive team. We have 85 staff here at this campus. So Petra or Rebecca would get back in touch after I've had a look at it and then run through the process. And, it's the standard process, really, where we just need to see the documentation, understand the need, make sure the person's got the funding in place to be able to help them for that short or medium term accommodation. We turn that around pretty quick, and we've had people move in as quick as a week. So Awesome. Pretty straightforward. So if you just email, or if you look up LifeBright on Google, or if you look up Odyssey Robina on Google, you'll find us.
No worries. Well, thanks so much for coming on board with us today and just sharing a little bit about LifeBright and what you guys are doing. It was such a good experience for me to be able to actually go down there and visit it, because I do believe it's very state of the art, especially in this space. Thanks so much, Phil.
It's a pleasure, Matt. And we really appreciate your help, and any of the listeners out there that know somebody that needs what we do, we'd really appreciate hearing from them.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, to this podcast episode. If you do want to find out more information, Phil provided his details before, but you can also contact us and we can refer you over to LifeBright.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure that you are subscribed and following us so that you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this episode with those that can benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.